Thanks for that, Rach. It's quite a big room. Anyway, morning everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's great to be down here in Tasmania breathing the clean air. I love Tassie. I'm sure everyone does too. And also thank you to Berries Australia for asking me to talk this morning. So let's kick it off. I'm going to do a little bit of unwrapping around marketing and hopefully share some of the special secrets and the magic that makes it work. So I think it's always good to start with a bit of proof. There's a fair bit of evidence around to suggest that marketing works, and let's start back in the beginning. So food marketing really isn't something that's new. For thousands of years, actually, the ancient Egyptians have used marketing to sell their food. So there were market stalls in ancient Egypt. Different vendors cooked different types of bread and different types of soup. And at their stands, they would promote their offers and suggest that it's only available while stocks last. So FOMO's been around for thousands of years. It worked then and it still works now. They really understood the importance of differentiation and quality and competing in a marketplace even back then. There's also some more recent evidence that food marketing does seem to work. So here are three of the biggest players in food and beverage production, but really marketing. And modern marketing was invented about 50 years ago by Procter & Gamble, and then it's proliferated from there. And on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see some numbers. The dollar figure is the number of billions of dollars in sales turnover for each of these businesses, and the percentage number is their profit margin, so their EBIT margin. I'm not sure what the EBIT margin looks like in your business. Certainly, these are pretty healthy margins, so they must be doing something right there. I was actually the product manager on a couple of these brands, and so you kind of get to understand how the sausage is made, and you actually create the sausage, really. So on Maggi recipe bases, we're talking about herbs and spices, some salt and some maltodextrin, and you buy that for $50 a kilo. There's lots of things that I want to buy for $50 a kilo, and a Maggi recipe base isn't one of them. PepsiCo, they own Red Rock Deli chips, $36 a kilo. It's a lot to pay for potato fried in oil with salt and flavours. Unilever, I know soap's not a food, but they've created a billions of dollars worth of value by adding water to soap, adding fragrance, and telling consumers that they need to use different soaps for different occasions, when really at the end of the day, it is just soap. So they must be doing something right here, and there's something that we can learn from what these businesses do. So in the next section, I'm going to tell you kind of my top 3 tips for how marketing works, and when successful marketing is done well, these 3 factors are really present. Good marketing always starts with understanding the consumer. If you don't understand the marketplace and the consumer in the marketplace that buys your product, you can't successfully market anything. You need to be able to understand the target consumer's needs and wants and desires, what problems they have to be solved, how to persuade them, and what are the messages that make them pick up your product and choose it over another. And this might be news to some people in the room, but you are not the consumer. The marketplace, our marketplace, is full of 27 million consumers or 28 million, and what you did last night or last week, or what your brother-in-law's sister did, is not really relevant. You need to understand consumers en masse and pick up on the key and the major themes and trends in order to really influence and understand them. And this one's a freebie. So, Rachel mentioned that I'd been working in food and how to influence consumption for 20 years. And really, it really comes down to 3 main drivers, and consumers trade off between these. And they are taste, health, and convenience. And it's probably no surprise to hear that taste is the number 1 driver of purchase of food. If it doesn't taste good, people are not interested. Let's talk a little bit about health. It is a deep-seated awareness in human beings that what we put into our bodies affects our health and how we are. So people are very conscious about making those choices. I've also added in here, apart from your own health, is health for the planet, because I think, it's no longer a trend, sustainability and people's desire to understand where food comes from. It is a driver of choice. And I think once we move out of this economic cost of living crisis, I think you'll find that this will become a higher in the choice model set. Convenience as well. So we're kind of lazy. We want things to be easy. We don't care that much about what we're having for lunch. We don't want to think about what we're cooking for dinner. So people are looking for solutions, and they'll trade off between these three. So they'll compromise taste for health, they'll compromise health for convenience, and it depends on the situation and the occasion and the consumer, and understanding that helps you to unlock the growth. The second component of good marketing really is understanding that marketing is predominantly subconscious. So most people are not aware that they're being marketed to. And marketers take advantage of something called System 1 and System 2 thinking. And System 1 thinking is really that intuition and instinct that sits within us. It's a shortcut, it's automatic. People just reach out and make choices without thinking too much about it. And that's the space that we want to play in, because the brain prefers to work in that manner. System 2 is more rational and requires more thinking. It takes more time and effort. And really, it happens more where there's higher involvement. So if you're going to buy a car or a house, you're going to spend more time in System 2 than you will in 1. But for a supermarket product, people don't really care that much about it. So you've got to operate in System 1. And to do that, marketers use emotional storytelling. The brain prefers emotions, it remembers them better, and becoming more familiar with the offer makes the consumer more likely to pick it up and choose it. Colours and symbols, no one's going to remember your logo, right? They don't care. But what they will remember is the shape of it and the colour, and that familiarity, again, will increase their likelihood to buy. Music and sound, it's probably no news to everyone to hear that. That's a very effective tool to drive System 1 thinking, and trust and endorsement. So you pay for the endorsement so that people don't need to think about it. So if I'm Colgate, I definitely want a range that's endorsed by dentists, because I'm a consumer, and if the dentists say that it's okay, I don't need to think about it, I can just buy it, and there's value there. So that's how System 1 and System 2 work. The third one is brought to you by Pantene. For anyone that was around in the 90s, Pantene taught us that if you use their product, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. And they were right. I mean, maybe. But what they're also right about is the effect that marketing takes. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. It takes consistency and commitment to really build brand and to get ROI from marketing. I was at a lunch late last year with the director of Kubota Tractors, the sales director of Kubota Tractors, and we were talking about the different expectations between results between sales and marketing, and they're inherently different. But over the years, he'd really understood the value of building his pipeline, and he, year on year, would spend time at conferences and events talking to customers, showing them the products, forming real relationships, and when it comes time for those farm owners to make a purchase in farm equipment, they go straight to him. So 3 or 4 years of that work, he's got a full sales pipeline and understands the value of that. And it's really the same in marketing. It takes time. And you can see both the time effect and the benefit of System 1 and System 2 thinking here. So on the left-hand side, we're about building future demand. We're about creating an emotional familiarity with the consumer. Because at the end of the day, insurance is insurance. But if you're saving koalas and you can associate your brand with that, then the brain will remember it. You're not buying a car share ride home. You're buying extra time with your family and loved ones. So you'll see these messages, you may or may not consciously see them, but the brain will pick up on them. And then when it comes time and you need a car ride or car share, and you need insurance, the familiarity of the brand will trigger you to be more propensive to buy the brand that you're aware of. With on the right-hand side, it's a more rational offer. So that's kind of how these two things work. So Pantene really was right all along. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Also, a great benefit of that slogan is that it means that you've got to keep using the product and buying more and more of it. So good work to them. So they're three of the main things that drive marketing, and we'll put a bit of a framework around it. And this is a purchase funnel. I guess most people have seen this, and this is the process by which consumers move through the purchase journey and become customers. And this is more or less conscious depending on how much involvement you have in a category. So again, with a car, you'll spend a lot more time doing this. With a product, it might be less conscious and automatic. But in order to buy something, you need to be aware of it. In order to choose it, you need to be aware of it. You then need to understand more about it for it to be really desirable. You need to understand how to create desire by understanding consumers. You then go on to purchasing and converting. And then hopefully you've had a really good experience and you want to come back and buy more. And then you buy it all the time, so you start to tell your friends. And that's how this works. And consumers come in and out of this cycle throughout the whole journey. And really marketers, one of marketing's jobs is to design activity that brings people back into this funnel at the right spots. So here's another framework. This is a framework from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, which is really the preeminent marketing science institute globally. They're based out of the University of South Australia, and they measure the effectiveness of thousands of campaigns around the world to really put this together and understand what's the equation for growth. So this doesn't cover off how to create a winning product. I could spend an hour or hours talking about how to create winning products, but we're assuming that you've got a great product here, because if you don't try and do the other stuff. But this is really about mental availability plus physical availability gives you buyers. And mental availability is being familiar with a brand, so it doesn't need to be conscious. Remember, it could be some subconscious familiarity. There's something about that motivates me to purchase, so it solves some kind of problem. I can see it and I can find it when I'm in a store where I want to find it. And then at shelf, there's something that compels me to pick it and choose it over something else on the shelf. And ultimately that leads to buyers and sales. So that's that. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on each real quick. The goal of advertising or the goal of marketing, one of them of creating awareness, is for people to see your brand or service. We're not talking about hundreds of people. There are millions of consumers in this market, so we need millions of eyeballs. And to do that, you buy advertising. Advertising is expensive. It's expensive because in any supply and demand market, which we all know in fresh produce, the more people want something or the less there is of it, the more it costs. So, if advertising didn't work, the cost wouldn't be there. Some of the companies I mentioned earlier, there's as a percentage of their sales turnover, their marketing investments between 8 and 14%. So we're talking about like $10 billion plus for some of those organisations. And I'm going to always get this backwards, but is it the chicken or the egg? Do they invest those dollars because they've already got the margin, or have they been investing that money over hundreds or decades of years in order to get the margin to keep investing? So something's working there. Creating desire. So this comes back to understanding consumers and understanding what motivates them to purchase or change a behaviour that they've already got. What are their needs and wants? It's key. On the flip side, what are the barriers to purchasing? What are the things that stand in their way, and what are the problems that they're solving? So what comes out of that are messages associated with the awareness of the product that compels people to move through and think more about it, or subconsciously think more about it and be more familiar with it. So then we move on to physical availability. Is your product in the right channel? There's 8,000 food outlets in Australia. How many of them is your product available in? If it's not, you certainly can't buy it. What's the ranging and distribution like? And then when they get to the store, is it there on shelf? Because they're not going to go to another store to buy your product somewhere else. They don't care. They're just going to pick an alternative quickly. Then when they're at the shelf, the position on the shelf speaks to the consumer semiotically or subconsciously. So is it at the top? Is it in the middle? Is it at the bottom? What is it next to? What is the pricing relativity on the shelf? All of these signals add up in the consumer's mind to give them either value, or they might want to pay a little bit more for something, and we have to think about not only the physical shelf but the online shelf as well. And then how do we move away from the home shelf and interrupt people's behaviour? So how can we drive impulse purchase and expand consumption? You can't in all categories. Thankfully in fruit you can. So the more that people buy, the more they'll consume. And interrupting people in different locations of the store can be a powerful way to do that. And then we're going to seal the deal at the point of purchase. So the pack needs to work incredibly hard to do that. That is the most important touch point, I believe, in this whole mix, because at the end of the day, you've got to give people a reason to choose you over the other. Some ruthless self-promotion here. Or there might be, the shape of the product could signal that memory for them as well. Price and promotions, so the price at shelf not only gives people like a discount, but it can remind them that this is a choice that they can make. And then again, it's both physical and online that we've got to think about when it comes to influencing that point of purchase. So that's how it works all together. Physical availability, mental availability plus physical gives you category buyers. And that's it really. When all of those things come together and work well, that's when it's successful. So, I don't know if anyone knows what the secret ingredients are in McDonald's special sauce. Does anyone know? Yeah. Well, the main ingredients are mayonnaise, tomato sauce, mustard and pickles. So none of those things are really that special. It's what McDonald's does around the sauce that makes it special. So it's not just the product, it's the activity that happens around it. I think in the fresh produce industry, do we really understand that? Do we really understand our consumers? Are we willing to invest in the medium and long term to get the ROIs that everyone wants? I think they're good questions to ask ourselves. And yeah, like I said, that's the special sauce. And when all those things happen together, you have success. That's it.